Alrighty, so I know this was announced yesterday, but since I was numb the whole day because of a root canal procedure that I did yesterday, I decided to do this video today talking about the Quakes finally found their head coach. So yesterday they announced that Luchi Gonzalez is going to be the next head coach of the San Jose Earthquakes, and technically he's actually not going to take charge of the Quakes right away, as I think he's still one of the assistants for the U.S. men's national team, and he will only take charge of the team starting after when they finish their campaign in the World Cup in Qatar in a couple of months. Now, obviously, there's been some mixed opinion about this. I have heard some Quakes fans that like this move, and I have heard some that hated this move and feels like this is kind of another cheap move from probably the cheapest ownership right now in MLS. So I'm going to kind of look at both sides of the table because, you know, the good about this move is that it is pretty clear that the Quakes are focusing a lot on the academy source. I mean, I feel like the San Jose Earthquakes Academy is probably one of the most underrated academy in MLS. Like, you know, a lot of people don't know that the Quakes Academy has produced some really good talent, and there's also some great talent that's come out of the Quakes Academy that I'm very excited about. So guys like Cruz Medina and even Nico Tevez, those guys that could be upcoming star for this team. And it's not to also forget that you know your academy is good when MLS and the Bleacher Report football channel even produced a documentary about the Quakes academy, and that, you know, again, this Quakes team, it feels like they're solely focused on the academy, almost trying the same approach that FC Dallas, the New York Red Bulls, and in some extent the Philadelphia Union is doing, which is heavily invest the academy, build some good foundation in that, so you can sell off a player for a big amount of money, but also bring in a couple of guys that could potentially do well in MLS, and eventually you can basically do very well in MLS, and it's been proven that it's been successful. I mean, look at the Philadelphia Union right now at the top of the Eastern Conference. Look at the New York Red Bulls being a playoff team, and even FC Dallas, you know, consistently being a playoff team too. So that's kind of the same reason why I think they brought in Luchi Gonzalez, because again, he's a perfect guy in terms of focus on playing the kids. I mean, we saw during his time with FC Dallas and part of that academy or he was a head coach of that academy for a long time before promoted in the senior level. And while Dallas didn't really kind of had that much success under his tenure, at least he did make a couple of playoff appearances, and there he was able to develop a lot of good players from that FC Dallas team that eventually sold off to Europe for a big sum of money. Now, obviously, the negative about this is that, again, it feels like the Quakes probably could have done better in terms of hiring a bigger name head coach, and especially it feels like, again, it is the cheap option, and especially, you know, also talk about Luchi Gonzalez and his tenure with FC Dallas. You know, for the most part, it wasn't good, especially his last year, where, you know, one of the reasons why he got fired is because of the fact that the team kind of fall apart because he couldn't just rely on, well, the kids that he of course trying to play wasn't really as good as the one that he used to have, and also not to mention a lot of those veteran presence that he of course have kind of didn't do well, and that a lot of that has to do with how I mentioned FC Dallas has not been very good in terms of signing guys that are more like not from their academy or from somewhere else to kind of provide that veteran presence. And that's kind of what I'm worried about the Quakes too, because again, the Quakes are notoriously, in terms of being cheap, in terms of some of their signings, and that it feels like this could be a same scenario that Luchi Gonzalez could be heading into himself, similar to his last year with FC Dallas. And not to mention some of the tactics that he used. I mean, some of the tactics that you use is interesting at time, and some that it can be frustrating, according to FC Dallas fan. I've heard that he tends to be a little bit more defensive, which, again, judging by how the Quakes are right now, I don't mind the fact that they could be a little bit more defensive. Like, right now, they can see the most goal in MLS. They're by far the worst defensive team in the league, so maybe bringing a defensive-minded kind of head coach in there to stabilize the defense might be a not a bad idea. But then, of course, you do sacrifice the attack there by going defensive, and that, you know, again, no Quakes fans want to see another Dominic Kintner like what we saw a couple of years ago, and that maybe that's what some Quakes fans are fearing, that he's going to be like another Dominic Kintner, being very defensive, and the fact that there's just no attack attacking talent, and games are going to be very boring. So, yeah, I can see why that may be a thing. But honestly, when I watched this Quakes team for the past couple of years, as much as it is a fun kind of game to watch if you're a neutral. I mean, I mentioned many times before, the Quakes are probably the most watchable team right now in MLS because of the fact that they keep providing some crazy free 2-4 free kind of reserve. But I mentioned many times, as a fan, I hate these resorts. I hate the fact that I have to watch a roller coaster ride that the Quakes tends to play every single week, especially during the Mateus Almeida experience, which, it might be fun. Again, it might be fun for neutral, but I hate it because of how up and down it is. I just want some stability, especially on the defensive end, and that, in my opinion, I think this move will provide some of that, and that especially, again, promoting the youth, and that I'm always a big guy in terms of seeing teams promoting the youth and playing guys that is coming out of the academy transition to senior level before selling them for a big sum of money off to Europe, and that at least the Quakes are trying to do that, and we'll see whether or not if they're going to be successful in that, because again, it's another new era for the Quakes. I can't tell you how many times I've said that it's been a new era for the Quakes for the past 6 years, and that it feels like every time I say that, it doesn't really resort to that much, and that, I'm still going to be very pessimistic and maybe cautiously optimistic. The fact that, I don't know if this is, of course, will work out. I don't want to just be like super optimistic as I was. I think a couple of years ago I was super optimistic when we had the new era. Remember when Jesse Fornelli, Michael Sarri, and all those guys were in charge, and I was excited about, and that's when I learned that, yeah, probably I shouldn't trust the Quakes in terms of giving me hope, because you know what happened in 2018 and how disastrous that year was. But yeah, let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this move? Do you think this is a good move for the Quakes, and do you think this will really help them in the future? But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.